Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning if you're joining us from other locations, or maybe even good evening for some of you. Thank you for joining, and we are discussing today a very important issue. It's about Ukrainian biomethane market in the European dimension, regulatory and economic aspects. The event is organized by the Energy Club think tank in partnership with the State Agency for Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving in Ukraine. And we're going to talk about the main challenges and prospects for biomethane market development in Ukraine and in the world, of course, some aspects of implemented biomethane registry in Ukraine, also the EU experience in biomethane market development, legislation, standardization in the field, peculiarities of international trade in biomethane, and mutual recognition of biomethane guarantees of origin, as well as peculiarities and specifics of conducting an independent audit of a biomethane production facility, and taking into account the importance of the issue, we do not set strict time regulation. However, we aim at completing the event by 2 o'clock Kyiv time, so please calculate your time. Those who watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn can ask their questions in the commenters field, and if we have enough time, they will be answered. I have a pleasure of giving the mic to Valery Bezos, the head of the State Agency of Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving of Ukraine, who will actually launch the discussion.
Thank you, Andrew, and the Energy Club for this very productive collaboration. Indeed, the development of the biomethane market is of huge importance for Ukraine and for the EU. I won't go into deep details of all of those arguments. I'm sure that the speakers will follow the idea, but I have to say that some steps are already made in Ukraine to develop the market. Around a year ago, our parliament adopted the law of Ukraine, which actually laid legislation basement for the biomethane production in Ukraine. The government approved the procedure, and now it's for the agency to implement this procedure and to create the guarantees of origin mechanism. It's quite challenging for us, but I'm sure we will proceed in quite a good pace with this. A lot of issues are challenging. Not only guarantees of origin mechanism to be made to have the feasible market active for biomethane. We know that as for now, conjunction in the market as follows. The prices are great for producers to produce and to export biomethane, but a lot of barriers due to certifications mechanism, due to actual procedure on how to get biomethane to the distribution network and so on. So we have great speakers today, and I'm excited and can't wait to hear from them. So welcome to the discussion.
Thank you. Brisk and up to the point as usual. And I think that the messages which were given by Valery Bezos will be developed further by Olena Lenska. She is the director of the Renewable Energy Department of the state agency which Mr. Bezos heads. Ms. Lenska?
Thank you. Could you share my presentation, please? And yes, next slide, please. Dear colleagues, as a candidate for the EU membership, Ukraine does the best to achieve European goals for decarbonization, increase the share of renewable energy, and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. The EU sees one of the ways to achieve the goal of Repower EU in increasing the annual production and import of biomethane from 3 to 35 billion cubic meters by 2030. Next slide. Currently, there are 60 biogas plants with a total installed capacity of 124 megawatt operated in Ukraine. 30 of them operated from agricultural waste and other one operated from solid household waste. The total production of biogas by these plants in 2021 was about 270 million cubic meters. But we have huge potential to increase these capacities as well as the potential to develop the biomethane market. According to expert estimate, it is possible to produce about 1 billion cubic meters of biomethane per year in Ukraine by 2030. Many investors who work in the field of bioenergy in Ukraine are now considering investing in biomethane plants, and already about 30 potential biomethane producers have applied to the gas transmission system operator for technical condition for connecting to the gas network. Of course, the initial investment in biomethane plants is quite large. At the same time, the total cost of commercial biomethane, which is produced using modern technologies, is at least 2 times less than the price of natural gas. Next slide. In order to confirm the fact that the gas supplied to the gas transmission network is biomethane, the relevant law and the government resolution were adopted. According to them, the State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving of Ukraine is obliged to maintain the register of guarantees of origin of biomethane. I also want to note that another promising area for development of the biomethane market in Ukraine is the development of legislative framework for the use of biomethane in transport. And next slide. Currently, our agency is actively working to ensure the implementation of the register of biomethane. This slide shows the main operations that take place in the biomethane register. They are related to the creation of accounts, issuance of guarantees of origin and certificate of origin. Next slide. And I hope that at today's discussion, we will synchronize our plans and discuss further steps to develop the biomethane market, both in Ukraine and in Europe, roadmap for inclusion of the biomethane register of Ukraine in the hub of the EU register, the EU best practices on state support for the production and consumption of biomethane, challenges and benefits for investors, issues related to conducting an independent audit for biomethane production and compliance with sustainability criteria, and of course, successful example of the EU in the implementation of biomethane project. Our agency is responsible for the implementation of state policy in the field of energy efficiency, renewable energy, in particular for the development of the biomethane sector. Therefore, we are open for dialogue and fruitful partnership for the development of the biomethane market. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Lenska, for this detailed yet concise presentation and clear-cut presentation, of course. And Ukraine pins hopes on international cooperation in the sphere of biomethane. So the next speaker is Karolina Chegir. She is the senior gas expert of the Energy Community Secretariat.
Thank you very much for introduction, and thank you very much for invitation. And I can only say that me personally and Secretariat is very glad to see that Ukraine is looking into the future and actually picking up the right moment which is going on in European Union right now. So I was asked to say a bit about prospects and support schemes in European Union. On biomethane, this is still not yet mandatory in the energy community, but in this process of adaptation will come to the agenda in following years. So prospects for biomethane are really bright and huge, and everybody expecting a lot from biomethane. And I would even say it must be a decade of biomethane, because biomethane is stipulated in very many political documents and strategies in European Union. So first, that was this Green Deal and Fit for 55, like biomethane is solution for reducing the emissions from waste and agriculture from one side, and here played a role. Then biomethane is of course perceived as a energy carrier from renewable energy sources. So from all these waste and agricultural residues, it has to be of course in line with sustainability criteria, but this is not the problem. Then it's solution, of course, for this all emissions from waste and agriculture, because this is all biomethane production is also recognized as a solution in EU strategy for decrease of methane emissions. So not that you have energy sectors producing these methane emissions, but it's also tackled and recognized that in waste and agriculture sector, these methane emissions are happening and can be used in a way that biomethane is produced and used further on for energy purposes. So biomethane is actually everywhere. You have it under this governance regulation with all these national energy and climate plans recognized there and in several fields. And then lately, biomethane plays a really significant role in this Repower Europe strategy, which is actually a response to Russian invasion to Ukraine and all this gas crisis in Europe. So biomethane goes well in all these policy documents from very different aspects, being decreasing emissions, being circular economy, being dealing with waste, and also here as a available source which then ensures security of gas supply, and everybody has it in the own yard. So from that perspective, biomethane is really solution for the next decade to pick up quickly, because It goes with well-established gas markets, with gas infrastructure, with gas appliances. So it's not like hydrogen that many things has to be adjusted and developed. Biomethane is just simply methane as it is, just from very available and good sources, being renewables or being waste or whatever. And I am really glad to see that Ukraine is picking up really momentum for gas development in European Union. So how this biomethane development is supported actually in European Union? Well, here, because it goes very much with all sectors. So energy sector, gas sector, agricultural sector, transport sector, it's also a bit spread along many sectors. So there is no unique support which is then well known for renewable electricity, like being feed-in tariff or feed-in premium, and this is it. And then you support development of this renewable electricity. That was a bit different, and it was a bit more difficult for biomethane to enter to network, not in the sense that network rules were protecting the entrance, but that actually investors and developers were not so much stimulated to go to biomethane level and then to injecting this into the networks. So far, I mean, in European Union, production is at the level of 3 BCM in 2021 of biomethane, and with plans from Fit for 55 was actually 35 BCM by 2030. So it has to be really increased tenfold. What countries are doing now in European Union? So with many different instruments supporting biomethane. So from tax exemptions, like for investors, for equipment, and or having faster route for permitting, or then stimulating actually waste producer, like to go into the biomethane production, or supporting maybe developer in transport sector if biomethane is taken, or putting the targets on gas producers and gas traders to blend with biomethane. So many different schemes are in place. Similar a bit like liquid for liquid biofuels in European Union. Maybe two examples are good to be mentioned here. So one is from Netherlands, from Flemish Energy and Climate Agency, where subsidies are provided to farmers if they actually use manure from livestock for biomethane to be produced. So this is one kind of subsidies from one side. Or, for example, UK example, which is very much similar to what is somehow done for renewable electricity. So there is a green gas support scheme in place. So this is kind of state fund, and then a producer of biomethane can apply for it. From other side, this fund is actually formed by levy prescribed for all gas traders. So it's not feed-in tariff, but you can imagine like state pot and then obligation for all gas players to put it in that pot, and then developers can take it from this fund, from this scheme. So those are two examples. Then there is, for example, a LIFE program for environment and climate action available in European Union for small and medium entrepreneurs, and here is like 6 billion euros for 6 years available. Then there is recovery and resilience facility which was actually established to help member states to cope with COVID bad results for 2 years, to help actually green and digital transition for member states. But in May this year, actually, when Repower of Europe was adopted as a strategy, this facility is actually also open and is heart for biomethane production as well. Then, of course, there are national financing, national development banks, and also World Bank and EBRD and EIB and all other European donors. And what is also important, I mean, those are two things in action plan following the Repower Europe, is actually that not only this resilience facility is available for biomethane, new biomethane production. No, there are also other existing funds recognized that biomethane producers will be eligible for that. So let's to mention Invest EU or this European Regional Development Fund or Cohesion Fund, and then Just Transition Fund. Then we have Connecting Europe facility if it's related to infrastructure, even European Agricultural Fund for rural development, and also two funds coming from emissions schemes, Innovation Fund and Moderation Fund. So since biomethane actually fits from many angles as a solution, it can be financed also from many different funds available in European Union. What is also important to say, I mean, this is all, of course, European Union, and then it has to be find a way how Ukrainian developers would be eligible for some of that. What is important to mention that actually this action plan going together with the Repower of Europe explicitly mention biomethane development in energy community contracting parties, and Ukraine is also explicitly mentioned. So for biomethane in Ukraine, I am really very positive that it's going to take good path, and you already started. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for painting this convincing picture, also for your vivid examples. And I'm pleased to pass the floor to Julia Kanchan. She is the Secretary General of the European Biogas Association. Hello.
Hello, thank you very much for the invitation. As the previous speaker has deepened a bit the subject of the support measures available within the Repower EU plan, I will like to speak about the current situation in Europe regarding the production of biogas and biomethane, and close up on what we need to do in the next 8 years to reach the 35 BCM target, and I will be available for any questions regarding policy and regulation. So first of all, I will state the obvious, but EU is largely dependent on third countries for its energy consumption, and especially on Russia. And this was what motivated the European Union to change strategy and to try and work on its energy resilience, as well as climate change mitigation. So when we look at the 35 BCM target that has been included in the Repower EU strategy, we, as European Biogas Association, we think that this is a reachable target. It's a timely one, but it's also a challenging one. So in the slide here, you see the scale-up efforts that are required within the Repower EU. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have a bit of a comparison with green hydrogen and biomethane. And on the center of the screen, you see the situation of today compared to what we need to reach by 2030. So today, Europe produces 3 billion cubic meters of biomethane, and we need to get to 35 billion cubic meters by the end of 2030. This would basically substitute a great deal of current imports of gas from Russia. And as an association, we started looking into how to mobilize this potential. And we think that the scale up can be done using only sustainable feedstock. On the right-hand side of the screen, you see an approximation of the potential that we can mobilize to 2030 if the right regulatory framework is in place and the right planning steps are in place as well. So as you see from the screen, there is a very important potential that needs to be mobilized from agricultural residues and sequential cropping, but also from food waste, livestock manure, and industrial and urban wastewater treatment. This is quite important in the context of Europe, but also in the context of Ukraine, because as we move on with the rollout of the sector, not only, of course, the waste and residues part are important, but also the link with the rural communities remains still very crucial to the development of the sector. This is just to show you the situation more or less at the moment. This slide shows the total number of newly installed biomethane plants in Europe per year, starting in 2008. You can appreciate a great development, especially starting from the year 2016, 2017. And you see also a change of path in the utilization of feedstock. While starting from 2008 to 2016, a great number of plants were reliant on energy crops. In the year from 2017 and to today, and this is I would say a driver that is still very much sustained in the market. There is a further development of industrial wastewater, sewage sludge, landfill, but particularly agricultural residues and sustainable crops that are being mobilized. As I was saying before, today Europe produces 3 billion cubic meters of biomethane, but also 15 billion cubic meters of biogas. So upgrading biogas to biomethane can highly contribute to the achievement of the REPowerEU target by 2030. As you see here from the slide, the growth of biogas has been stagnating a little bit from 2018 towards 2020, whereas the growth of biomethane has been spiking a lot more during these years. And we think that this development will continue also towards the coming years. So the biomethane growth rate in 2020 was of 25%, and we expect an even steeper increase in 2021. We know that to reach the target that has been set, we need that growth rate of 28% each year until 2030. So this can pose some challenges. When we look on how to get there, we need to mobilize, of course, sustainable feedstock, but we need absolutely investments, private and public. In general, we need an overall capital investment of 83 billion euro in biomethane production capacity in the coming years. Here in the slide, you see also what we think that this capital should go to. So medium-sized anaerobic digestions, but also developing large-scale biomethane plants. When it comes to legislation, which is actually a very important framework to develop the biomethane capacity in such a short time, as a sector, we think that there are 4 pillars that we need to work on in the coming years. And the REPowerEU action plan and biomethane action plan is actually more or less mirroring these 4 dimensions. The first one is planning. So the 35 BCM at the moment is an indicative target, but we think that we should anchor it to legislation, and member states should somewhat work on trajectories of growth to sustainably get to this target. Market, so ensuring easy market access, cutting red tape and eliminating persisting internal market barriers, but also making trading possible across member states and with third countries such as Ukraine at the moment. Finance is an important step, as I was mentioning before. So using dedicated and innovative finance instruments to mitigate risks and have the needed capital to roll out biomethane at scale. And finally, and most importantly, working on sustainable feedstock, so mobilization, logistics, and also identifying novel feedstock for the future. I kept it, I hope, to 5 minutes, but as I said, I'm open to questions after. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the mic now goes to Matthias Edel, Secretary General of the European Renewable Gas Registry. We have spoken briefly about renewables here. We will hear from Mr. Edel about the experience of creating the European Register of Renewable Gases. Hello.
Hello, yeah. Good morning and many thanks for the invitation on this very interesting topic. So as the previous speakers already outlined, it's the momentum is very good to put biomethane high on the agenda. And we as the European Renewable Gas Registry aiming at facilitating the cross-border transfers of biomethane and other renewable gases. And as such, we contribute to the REGATRACE project, which is a European-funded project on the establishment of biomethane registries and the facilitation of cross-border transfers in Europe. But at the same time, we also operate a European scheme which enables the cross-border transfers between national biomethane registries and issuing bodies. And with this background, I'm pleased to give you an overview of the establishment of biomethane registries. We consider biomethane registries as a key requirement for the establishment of a well-functioning, trustworthy and transparent biomethane market. And first of all, I think it's important to define the objective and the purpose of the biomethane production and consumption. And in this regard, the European legislation differentiates between the disclosure towards final consumers. It knows target counting towards national renewable energy targets. And the third purpose of the biomethane production in the European legislation is compliance with support mechanisms or quota obligations. One example here is the European Emission Trading Scheme, where biomethane can be counted with zero CO2 emissions and can be beneficial to the operators of such EU ETS facilities. For the establishment of a biomethane registry, the following key elements are key. And need to be considered. First of all, biomethane production, for the biomethane production, a trustworthy and independent certification is needed. And second important requirement is that the issuing of certificates is based on well-defined rules or a standard, such as, for example, the CEN standard on the issuance of renewable gases, CEN standard 16325, which is being revised at the moment, but hopefully it will be finalized soon, so that it can be applied by issuing bodies in the near future. Another requirement is that a robust IT solution is behind the issuance of biomethane certificates that ensures an efficient and transparent, but also a secure transfer of the certificates from the producers to the consumers. And last but not least, the framework needs to be clearly defined, which responsibilities have the producers, the auditors, the registry operators, but also national authorities. And if we have a closer look on the international transfers with EU member states, the following points need to be considered. So at the moment we have two international schemes which are dedicated to renewable gases and cross-border transfers of such renewable gases. On the one hand side, it's the AGA-CO scheme. On the other hand side, it's the AIB gas scheme. And for national biomethane registries in European countries, but also for those in the energy community and also Ukraine, it would be necessary or important to join and participate in one of those two schemes to allow transfer with other European countries, and this also requires a technical connectivity with the IT systems of the one of the two European schemes. And for the transfer of renewable gases with EU member states, especially with regards to guarantees of origin, an agreement with the European Union on a mutual recognition of guarantees of origin is needed in combination with a direct import or export of the gas. This is a crucial requirement, which is also defined in the Renewable Energy Directive, Article 19. And so that's a brief overview of the major requirements for establishing a biomethane registry, but also for being connected to the European schemes and being connected to the European registries. For the details, I recommend you to visit the Regatrace website, where we have provided many documents and details about setting up biomethane registries, about issuing of certificates, but also on how to join and connect with European IT schemes for the cross-border transfers. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, should I go on? Or? Okay, yes, okay. Great. Yeah, thank you for invitation to participate in this discussion and to share our experience with the biogas register Germany, which is set up and operated by the German energy agency DENA, in short, as a short impulse. My name is Jakob Jäger. I'm working as a senior expert for DENA, and here I'm responsible for operating and the further development of this biogas register Germany. Thus I come to the first question: why does the biogas register Germany exist? In 2012, the register was set up together with many market players, and the idea was to develop a tool that would make it easier to meet the requirements of different subsidy instruments for the use of biomethane in Germany. The register was needed so as a market standard to simplify the sometimes complicated verification process. Especially important here is the Renewable Energy Act, in short EEG, under which around 80% of the biomethane produced in Germany is supported. The special thing here is that the Renewable Energy Act clearly defines which criteria biomethane must fulfill in order to be supported, but it does not specify whether or which verification system must be used for this. So the biogas register Germany is a support instrument for these legal documentation requirements, but the participation is voluntary, so there is no obligation to register in our system. And just a short note, here's the clear boundary to the fuel market in Germany. There, the use of the register NABISI is required by legislation, and that is why for biomethane as a fuel, no proofs can be registered in our system. The same applies to the issuing of proof of sustainability. Here too, it is required to use NABISI. Then we'll come to the second question, just short. How does the biogas register in Germany work? Our system is structured as an account-based system with 4 different roles: users, auditor, register, operator, and admin. And without going into detail here, important to know in our system is all criteria about the production plant and the produced biomethane are entered into the biogas register by the user and then are verified by an independent auditor, or what is then recorded in our system. And at the end of the verification process in our system, the register extract will then be produced, which will be submitted to the relevant body as proof that the relevant criteria have been met. We currently have 200 plants and 300 companies registered in our system, and the verification of around 80% of biomethane volumes in Germany is carried out via the Biogas Register Germany. We are also part of ERGA, who have already given an impulse here today. We have integrated an interface in our system, and we have already carried out several hundred international transfers in the current year. And we are, of course, clearly not notifying a strong upward trend in the international transfers. So what are our most important experiences in setting up and operating the Biogas Register Germany? First, the flexibility to map different support schemes and instruments and the criteria to be verified in the biogas, in a biogas or biomethane register have proven to be a great advantage. In our view, this must be taken into account when setting up a new register. It is, of course, also highly beneficial to consider international trade in the conception of a biomethane register and to make it technological possible, and also the connection to further databases should also be prepared. And very clear from our point is that the system, not in the beginning, but especially when it becomes larger, the user of a register should be able to carry out many actions himself, so that the administrative effort can be kept low. And one last point, as an operator, which should be kept in mind when setting up a register, by operating a biomethane register, you become an important contact not only for the users of the system, but also for a large number of players, both national and international. Yeah, and with our experience, we are very pleased maybe to support development of a Ukrainian renewable biomethane registry. And thank you for your attention.
And thank you for your presentation. And the next person to speak is supposed to be Mate Fuchs of Landwarme GmbH. If you're with us, obviously not, then Julian Andries, the project manager of the Austrian biomethane registry, and he's definitely with us, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my screen if that's possible, provided a short presentation. Just a second. Is it? Can everyone see it?
Yes, we get it.
Perfect. Yeah, so welcome to the presentation on the Austrian biomethane market and our registry system. And first of all, thanks for having us. Short introduction to our team. So it consists of Ms. Stefanie Königsberger, who is currently on maternity leave. She's also a member of the ERGA board, myself and Andreas Wolf, who also joins the meeting today. And who has around 10 years of experience now on working on the Austrian registry. And on the right side, we have our management board, Mr. Franz Kolschnik, who is the responsible member for the registry, and also Mr. Holzer and head of our board, Mr. Aubrunner. On the biomethane market in Austria. So first of all, the key facts on our registry is that we have all Austrian markets covered. So we have all production plants within our system. We have a monthly creation of certificates. To make it clear, we are not the appointed issuing body for the guarantees of origin. However, we are at the moment trying to talk to the E-Control Austria, who is the issuing body, and to find a way to implement both systems because of the limited use of the guarantees of origin at the moment. So we create certificates, not guarantees of origin. We also do the mass balancing and the auditing, as well as the cancellation of our documents. Therefore, we have 8 registered auditors, and now for I think 2 months, we also have an auditor who can check on sustainability criteria for the biomethane. The base of our work is our Austrian legal acts on gas and renewable energy. Also, we have future applications in the fuel sector. We're currently talking to the environmental agency to use biomethane in the fuel sector. We're, of course, a part of ERGA, and therefore we can exchange our certificates within Europe and also exchange it to other registries like DENA. On the Austrian market, there are 15 biomethane plants currently. There's no premium or feed-in tariff, only for renewable electricity produced by biomethane. And there's one subsidy scheme for that. Currently, there are last year 136 gigawatt hours of biomethane were produced and injected into the grid. And here we have statistics on the last few years. So from January to July of 2022, it's around 82 gigawatt hours. So the level is stable. It should be around 140 by the end of this year. Only a short slide on the different players. So our registry is not the issuing body. We try to combine different parts of certificates or guarantees of origin, proofs of sustainability, and also other needed documents for using the biomethane within the fuel sector, or using it for this consumer disclosure. So we try to get all of these aspects together within our certificate, so our certificate can be used for different approaches, and also maybe in the future for CO2 mitigation. Here is a short description on how the certificate looks. You have all this information on the plant, on the substrates. You can also add information on sustainability. All this data can also be found on Biomethane Register Austria. So you can also download this sample certificate and have a look on all the details. Also, PDF files can be uploaded if there's additional data needed. Yeah, and on our network, we have partners within Austria and also in Europe. ERGA, of course, Matthias already talked about it a little bit. Our partners in Austria are several associations and also corporations, like big corporations like OMV or Verbund, and also the Austrian gas grid managers, AGGM. We have several implementations of our certificates within interfaces of other associations and institutions. Like I said, the Environmental Agency, Umweltbundesamt, for biofuels. We have an interface for collaborating with DENA, with the German registry, also with the ÖMAG, who handles the subsidies for renewable electricity, and so on. And to finish, only a short timeline on our registry. So it all started with the feed-in tariff, where you need to provide certificates about the amounts produced in 2008. We also participated in EU projects like the Regatrace project, which will be finished in November. And yeah, regularly hold webinars and share insights on the biomethane market, and also always try to find new cooperations, and also looking forward to find new cooperations and projects in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess that many people are also looking forward to cooperating with you. I see that Mr. Javier Cervera, Vice President of the Association of Energy Engineers of Spain, is with us. So the mic is yours, Mr. Cervera.
Thank you very much for the invitation to this interesting discussion. I'm talking about the Spanish market. First of all, some very fast data about the natural gas network that we have. These are the transport grid. As perhaps you know, we have a very important infrastructure in the LNG terminals, a bit more than 30% of the capacity in Europe, and we have very well connected around all the territory in Spain. More than 50% of the natural gas that we are receiving is from LNG origin. This is the situation about the biomethane. In Spain, we are in the very, very low volume, obviously, comparing to other countries in Europe. We have to do a lot of job. Just at the end of the last year, we had only 3 biomethane plants injecting biomethane to the pipes. Currently, we have 6. According to the data in Europe that has been shown before, the objective is near 10% of the natural gas demand in 2030, and still we don't know which is the limit in 2050. That is the time that we want to be neutral continent. In Spain, currently, we have less than 150 biogas plants. Biogas going to produce electricity mainly. It's very low percentage, and the objective, the national objective for 2030 is arriving 3%. Part of this objective will be biomethane. But for the future, the maximum capacity that we know that we can arrive is this volume, 50, 70 terawatts. According of the demand, current demand is 20%. Will be more because obviously we hope to reduce in some sectors the use of natural gas. This is the capacity around different regions in Spain, but to maximize this volume, the challenge, we have to focus in 2 important things. The smaller farms to install biogas or biomethane plants being economically efficient. It's not easy to obtain this gap, and the organic municipal waste to produce with all the organic from the kitchen that we have, all the potentials for biogas or biomethane. If we take only the example of the kitchen organic waste, we are using currently beans in Spain. I suppose that like other countries, to do the separation here, you have to do the people aware to do that. It's not so easy. You can close and you can give them keys to access and to separate correctly, but the best way that we have tested already in hundreds of cities and small towns is to collect the organic from the door.
Hello? Hello? Mr. Cervera? I wonder if I again have this problem with the internet.
No, we can hear you.
Yeah, good. I have
Now?
a problem with the internet again. So
I'm on there.
yes, you are.
Okay, I share my screen another time. Okay, I was in the previous telling you that to get very nice quality of kitchen waste, we need like a meter. Okay, we are doing already pilots doing door-by-door collecting, which digital information collecting, weighting the waste, and with all the data collected, we have the individual meter that is important to be involved the citizens with the quality of the organic. What are we doing in Spain currently with the new biomethane plants? Just in this month, you can see here the number of the plants that will be at the end of the month. 2 of them just injecting this week. At the end of the year, we are increasing this volume, still 0.5 terawatt of biomethane, but we are moving the next 2 years to a volume 2.2 terawatts of biomethane that is on the way of the objective to the 2030, okay, the strategy, national strategy. Which public support we have to do that? We have just now a budget from the government, 150 million euros to produce biogas, some of them to produce biomethane, but the subsidies are for the investment and to produce biogas in general, and some will be biomethane projects. What about the demand? At the end, the demand in Spain, some customers, transport mainly, are starting to use biomethane. This is, for example, a Spanish company where I'm the director of the head of energy transition, and we have used already, we have tested biomethane in a trip last year doing Barcelona and Menorca Island with the biomethane to be neutral because of the new regulations in the Fit for 55 that are coming for the maritime. And just yesterday was announced that the public buses in Madrid, they have 1,000 natural gas buses. They are just from this week, starting 20 or 30 units running only with biomethane. These are the demand is starting to do here in Spain to use this biomethane. And thank you for the time. I hope that I have used the time that I had. Thank you very much.
Yes, and you have used it very efficiently. So from the west of the continent to the north of the continent, Pia Farstad von Hall from Norway, she's the Chief Executive Officer of Biogas Norge.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having this session on the biogas in Ukraine. And I hope we can contribute with something from the north. The Norwegian biogas market is not in size in terms of produced energy, a large sector in the Norwegian market, but we do have developed competence when it comes to supplier of biogas equipment. We have a Combi, for example. They have like 40% of the wastewater market in the United Kingdom. The biogas production in Norway is also influenced by the fact that we don't have pipelines the biogas is put into, so we have to upgrade it. Therefore, we have the largest producer of liquefied biogas in Norway, Biokraft, located outside Trondheim. And we benefit from the oil and gas sector in Norway with the competence and knowledge they represent in the gas sector. So this has been an important base of development. But we also see that the European Union policies, they influence Norway, even though we're not a member of the European Union, we're a member of the European Economic Area. So we tend to adopt legislations coming from the European Union. When it comes to the treatment of waste from households and also businesses from next year, that will require a better separation of waste, which also means more food waste for biogas production. So we see an increase, hopefully reaching 10 terawatt hours in the Norwegian market by 2030. What we produce biogas from is, in addition to food waste, it's manure from the agricultural sector. And we also have a large fish farming sector, which we see a great potential in, and also the ordinary fishing sector. So Biocraft is using fish in their production plant. Another number is also the sludge. We see an increasing number of local municipalities interested in investing in biogas production plants based on the sludge and the wastewater. As well, I can say that we are also discussing a system of the certificate of origin, which is developing in the European Union. We haven't yet decided in the Norwegian market whether we should adopt it or not. But I believe, if I should guess, I think it would be a good thing. And that will also connect us more closely to the European market, also the Ukrainian market. The Norwegian government is supporting biogas production. There's investment support for new biogas production plants representing new technology. We receive financial support for heavy vehicles in order to increase the interest in investing in these vehicles, because they are more expensive than traditional vehicles. There is also financial support to develop infrastructure. So there's filling stations along the roads in Norway. Parallel with the biogas production, there is also a highly focus on the residue, because producing biogas, you also produce the residue of the biogas production, which 90% is returned to the agricultural sector as replacing fertilizing. So this is a more climate-friendly fertilizer than the ones you traditionally use. We are also developing the market for CO2 capturing. They have been successfully in the company VEAS outside Oslo. They are capturing CO2 from their upgrading plant, use it for producing beer, actually. So this is something we are seeing as an increasing market as well, because Norway has been a great supplier of CO2 for the food sector in Europe, but the producer of CO2 in Norway is closing down. So capturing CO2 from biogas plants can be a good market in the future. And this is in development in Norway these days. So we are very positive to the prospects of the European biogas sector, and we are also seeing positive effects of the European Union policies in the Norwegian market. So this is a sector which is prosperous going ahead. So I think that should sum up the Norwegian market in brief. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for this thorough review of what's going on in your sphere. The next person to speak is supposed to be Thorsten Rohling of Agriportons GmbH in Germany. And
I'm there.
He is, no? Yes? Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I have a short presentation, so I will share my screen. Yes, so So, okay, we are an energy startup and we are a biomethane broker, and we see a biomethane a natural gas alternative for climate protection and energy independence for Europe and Germany at the moment. Why do we believe in biomethane? We see three clear strengths there. At first, it's nearly climate neutral, so there are 85% less carbon dioxide emissions compared to fossil fuels if you use it in the fuel sector. It's quite attractive for use in heavy-duty traffic. I think that was outlined too in talks before. And in Germany, there are around about 900 CNG filling stations and 100 LNG filling stations. And the number is currently growing. And Germany is one of the biggest biogas producers in Europe. There are over 9,500 biogas plants, which seek for alternatives due to the EEG subsidy will be lost by most plants in the coming years. Briefly about us, what is our mission, or why are we doing this? What are we doing? We try to help to create a sustainable world, and we believe that one way to do so is to enable agricultural producers to participate in the biomethane market, and therefore we created a greenhouse gas balancing software and a matchmaking process for biomethane brokerage, because there are two problems in that market in Germany. At first, the producers who want to go into the fuel sector for biomethane have to create a bureaucratic, complex greenhouse gas balance sheet, and they have to find petrol companies with a high effort. And on the other side, mineral oil companies don't like the highly fragmented biomethane market or biogas market in Germany, and they want to have kind of an institution between the plants and themselves. And we developed therefore two solutions. At first, a software service solution for creating the greenhouse gas balance, and a matchmaking process where we figure out different pricing models, contract designs, and do the quality classification of the biomethane, which is offered to the petroleum companies. I mentioned the software earlier. Here you can have a small look at our team. Next to me is also Henning Dix, who founded the company. And I would like to talk briefly about the German biomethane market. At the moment, there are only 230 biomethane plants, and that relates to around about 10 terawatt hours of biomethane, which is annually produced, although that number is growing. The price for biomethane, there's quite a high range. At the moment, we noticed prices between 7.9 cents per kilowatt hour of biomethane up to 23 cents per kilowatt hour, but only if you have a fixed contract with a duration of 7 years for the offtake. On the spot market in Germany, we have seen prices around about 40 cent and more this year. We have also published a biomethane price ticker on our homepage. So if you're interested, you can visit that. And next to the duration of the contract, the quality is also quite important, because there are more or less 3 different qualities: crop-based biomethane for the fuel sector, waste and residue-based biomethane for the fuel sector, and also biomethane produced from manure. And that from manure is the most valuable one. That is due to in Germany this kind of quality, or the price depends heavily on the GHG value from the biomethane, and manure has the highest savings of GHG emissions according to the logic to calculate it implemented in the Renewable Energy Directive. Due to that, also liquefied carbon dioxide from plants is quite interesting. This was mentioned earlier, because that can also be also have a positive effect on the GHG balance. The main off-takers in Germany, those are the petrol industry, with around about 1.5 to 2 terawatt hours of the biomethane market, so around about 20%, and CHP plants, which produce heat and power. The main support mechanisms in Germany are the national implementations of the Renewable Energy Directive and different EEGs for the RED II, mainly for the petrol industry, so for the gas which goes to the fuel sector, and the different EEGs are interesting for the CHP plants. Current developments right now, biomethane is quite interesting for off-takers because of the political realignment, uncertain deliveries of fossil fuels, and the rising fuel prices from fossil fuels. Also a brief look at the market potential of biomethane. At the moment, I outlined we have around about 10 terawatt hours in Germany, which can be translated into a market volume of 1 billion euros, and that will rise steadily up to around about 3 billion euros in 2026. And also the number of plants is rising. We estimate that there will be around about 500 plants, so twice as much as at the moment. That's it so far. If you have any questions or other issues, feel free to contact me afterwards.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Rowling. If there are questions, they will be asked and answered after the presentations have finished. I also remind our audience that you can post your questions in the comments fields on the pages where you're watching us. And now I give the floor to Mr. Mykola Kadensky, who is head of the Network Development Department of the GTS, Gas Transporting System Operator of Ukraine.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Please
yes,
confirm that I'm online.
We can also see you.
Great, great. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the possibility to participate and present a short position on gas TSO, strong support of biomethane development in Ukraine. Today is a good day for such discussion because traditionally today is in Ukraine day of oil and gas workers. So, no, okay, colleagues asking me to say that on Sunday. But this is a week of celebrating tradition, so it's good because we are upgrading ourselves and combining our efforts with renewables, with agriculture to create new industry which will support energy security of Ukraine and help us to survive in a war with Russia, and also will help Europe. I will try to share my screen to show a few slides.
Hello?
I'm trying. Okay.
And you succeed.
Great. So for us, it's important to be open and to support pilot champions projects who will join the grid and produce first cubic meters of biomethane in Ukraine. So far, we work with each of them as a babies. We treat them as a babies, discuss, consultate with the regulations, with technical stuff, and we will go on this till the time when the industry will be huge so far that they will do it independently as a or traditionally gas producer, as gas drillers. Here we compare where is better to connect when you are different type of projects, so to distribution system operator, to transmission system operator, different pressures, different requirements for chemical parameters, but for sure it depends on the scale of the project, so you can choose dependently on your location. And we are open to zero-step consultation for each one who want to produce biomethane in Ukraine on exist biogas production site or new build. We analyze a lot how this industry develops in Europe. We know about requirements, we know about grid access and so on. Here how procedure is presented, how to become connected to the grid, how to join to the gas transmission system operator step by step, client step, gas transmission step, one by one, to become officially connected to the grid. We counted more than at least 13 steps for both. Documents submitted by the consumer for connection, so you have to apply in a proper way with the proper documents. First of all, land using, understanding of technical requirements, schemes of connections. It's a very, let's say, specific knowledge aspects, but we have to understand that in Ukraine this knowledge is well earned by our drillers, so we have to combine efforts when you're trying, or some investors, or some developers trying to get access to the grid, to avoid wasting of time, to become more close consultation with existing gas drillers when they connect into the grid. This is how to commercially become connected to the gas transmission system operator. I mean, gas market administration have special rules how to become a customer, how to become shipper, how to trade gas in a special system. Also, we are exploring different scenarios in different forms of grid connection, how to trade. You know that trading of natural gas is closer to magic, but strongly formulated by the norms and regulations. So we kindly ask everyone to devote some time to learn natural gas market act and the grid code of gas transmission system operator to know more how to trade this energy carrier which you are going to produce. And we will help with that, everyone who is interested to cooperate. Some biomethane market knowledge, you know about a lot about it, so this is how we are working, how we're doing with with biomethane industry, and I think for previous year a lot of Ukrainian market and European market participants know that we are open to consultations, to discussion, and we are ready to cooperate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Kadensky, because you have generously shared this with us. And now, Georgy Heletucha, the chairman of the board of the Ukrainian Bioenergy Association, and this is one of those associations whose ideas are listened to. Mr. Heletucha.
Hello to everybody, and thank you for invitation to this event. Title of my presentation, Prospects of Biomethane Development in Ukraine. I represent Bioenergy Association, which is established 9 years ago and combined most of player in bioenergy, including in biogas and in biomethane in Ukraine. At the moment, we have no biomethane plants in Ukraine. We have about 60 biogas plants, but they are producing electricity from biogas. But we expect till the end of this year, start of operation 2 biomethane plants in Ukraine, converted from existing biogas plants. One is 3 million cubic meters per year, and second is 10 million cubic meters per year. Why Ukraine is interesting in biomethane? Because biomethane is absolutely ready for injection into the gas network, and no additional investments needed for modernization of gas networks and gas equipment. Ukraine can really compete with any country in the production of biomethane because we can offer the cheapest raw material for biomethane production. Ukraine has the largest area of agricultural land in Europe, and accordingly one of the world's best potential of agricultural raw material for biomethane production. And biomethane plants, in addition to biomethane, generate digestate, which can become the main organic fertilizer needed for revival of Ukrainian soil. And today, biomethane is the cheapest of possible renewable gases. We estimated as association with financial support of EBRD, we did this study for prospects of biomethane production in Ukraine, and our estimation that Ukraine can produce nearly 10 billion cubic meters of biomethane per year. And you see from which raw material. Biggest is crop residues like straw, corn stems, sunflower stems. We also calculated partly maize silage, and also other different residues like manure, organic fraction of municipal solid waste, wastewater treatment residues, food and beverage residues, and so on. Distribution around the territory is also not equal. This is our oblasts, and this is how many biomethane could be produced in this oblast. Better it's see on this picture. You see the dark areas is the most rich with potential of biomethane. This is central part of Ukraine. Kievska oblast, Vinnytska, Cherkasy, Poltava, Khmelnytska. This is the most rich areas. We also developed in frame of this project potential optimal zones for location of biomethane plants in Ukraine, considering two main reasons. One is availability of biomass resources, and second, availability of gas distribution or gas transition tubes nearby. And gas distribution tubes, it's very important their possibility to accept needed volume of biomethane in summer period. In winter period, it's much easier, but biomethane plant will work permanently during the year. And in summertime, it's not so easy to find places where biomethane can be injected in the grid. That these places is indicated in this map. In the bottom part of this slide, there is a link for this this map is available in internet and you can use it. And typical feasibility parameters of biomethane plant in Ukraine is on the slide. We calculated plant with 10 million cubic meters of biomethane per year. And with the price of biomethane, €900 per 1,000 cubic meters. At the moment, this is quite conservative price. Price of the natural gas is already higher, even in Ukraine. In EU, it's at least twice higher than this figure. But you see, even with this price of biomethane, our internal rate of return is quite good, 23%, 28%, which is quite enough for investors to go in this sector. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Galetucha. And I'm being told that Mate Fuchs has joined us. He wasn't there when we tried to connect to him. Mate Fuchs of Landwarme GmbH, Germany.
Yes, hello.
We want to hear from you.
Yes, can you maybe start the presentation which I forwarded to you? Is it possible? Yeah. That is it. Many thanks. So my name is Mate Fuchs. I work for Landwarme GmbH. On the next slide, you are going to see that where you can, or where is Landwarme in the supply chain of biomethane. We are a Munich-based biomethane trader, and we were established in 2007 as a spin-off company of the Technical University in Munich. Right now, we have more than 70 people in our team, and we manage approximately 3 terawatt-hour of biomethane on a yearly basis. The most important thing is that the main market is Germany. The most producers in our portfolio, they are in Germany. But we have also some sources in the Central and Eastern European region market. Can someone please put the next slides in the next one? Yeah. So what we learned when we started to develop our projects in the Central and Eastern European region is the main issue was always get the connection to the gas grid. We had one project in Hungary, which we started in 2010. It took almost 5 years to get the grid connection and also install the upgrading plant. Now it's on a sugar factory and it is producing approximately 55 to 60 gigawatt-hour of biomethane on a yearly basis. So with the DSO and with the TSO, it was more than 2 years to get all the technical data, how we can connect to the grid. And that's something that we see in other countries. Also in Slovakia, we have one source of biomethane. There was also a long run with the TSO to get the grid connection, then I can imagine that in other countries it will be the same. We try to develop projects also in Poland, and there we see also the same issue. It is not that easy to connect to the grid. Even though if you have that possibility, there are also some other quality criteria the producers must fulfill when they would like to inject into the grid. So in some countries, it is relatively low, the quality level which you have to fulfill. In other countries, like it's also in Poland, there are so many quality criteria must be measured and must be fulfilled that many potential sites, they just refuse to produce biomethane because it's almost impossible to fulfill the natural gas quality criteria the TSO or the DSO would like to get. Also, I switched to the feedstock basis. It was really good to see that Ukraine would like to produce biomethane mainly from waste and residues and not that so much energy crops. What is important that in our production sites in Hungary, to find feedstock, which is waste residue, and not only that, but also to fulfill the sustainability criteria of the Renewable Energy Directive, because if the feedstock is not sustainable under RED II, the biomethane which is going to be produced will be also not sustainable. And that also reduces the possibilities to sell the biomethane. What we also have as a relatively hard thing, and we must solve to fulfill the criteria, the so-called mass balancing criteria, it was to set up the whole transport chain from the injection point till the end customers in Western Europe, to the CNG fueling stations or LNG fueling stations. So that's also something which you should consider when you try to produce or to develop a project, that the gas must be transported via the gas grid to the end customer. So we have to buy the capacities on the border and we have to nominate on it. So the gas is going to leave the country at the end. So that's something what you have to keep in mind. Otherwise, it will be just a book and claim project. And in that case, the price of the biomethane will be also lower than compared with the price if the gas could be transported. Also, what we see that in many countries, even though here in the European Union, there is no biogas registry. So you just produce the biomethane, but on a state level, there is no one who is trying to register the produce biomethane quantities. So if once Ukraine is going to start to operate its own gas registry, it should be connected somehow to one of the biggest hubs like Ergar to maintain the possibility to transfer the certificates between the different biogas registries. And also, if there are other voluntary schemes like, let's say, the ISCC or the Red Cert to do the certification of the produced biomethane. They do not need a biogas registry, so it's relatively easy to transfer the proof of sustainability between the different companies which are involved in the whole supply chain. But it must be done, otherwise the biomethane has not a good value. And also the last thing which I would like to mention, what we saw that it is good if in one country there is the possibility that the producer can switch between a state-based subsidy to the voluntary market, or that they can sell it freely on the market, the biomethane. Why? Because in some cases, the free market is paying way more for the biomethane than what you can get maybe from the government. And that should be also involved in the regulation. We know some countries in the European Union where it is not possible to partially sell on the free market the biomethane. If once someone just choose the subsidy from the government, for a given time, the biogas plant and the biomethane production must stay there. So I hope that I could have some good information about the project developments, what we did in the last decade in Eastern Europe and what we learned there. And if you have any questions, so later on, just please ask me. So many thanks for your time.
And many thanks for your valuable contribution. And now Katerina Postolenko, she is the lead project manager for GHG and sustainability at the Bureau Veritas certification.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm trying to share my screen, just 1 second. Okay. Meanwhile, thank you for inviting me to this really interesting discussion. Okay. So I'll try to be really quick. My today's topic is biomethane, RED II, and the sustainability certification that was already mentioned today during different presentations. Not viewable. And just few words about Bureau Veritas. As probably a lot of you know, we are international inspection and certification body that was established way back in the 19th century, and for now we're going together with the time, and we have a lot of different services dedicated to the sustainability in energy sector, in the sector of carbon projects, also projects, our services are related to the responsible sourcing and so on. Okay. Oh, sorry, moving forward. And as we go to our certification obligation, European Union encouraged development of the voluntary international and national schemes that set the standard for the production of sustainable biofuel, bioliquids, and biomass fuel, which is biomethane. And they certify that the production of biofuel, bioliquids, and biomass fuels meets those standards. As for the legal basis for the sustainability certification, first it was RED I, adopted way back in 2009, and then it was adjusted by in 2015, and then recently replaced by RED II, which came into force last year, 1st of July 2021. And RED II sets the criteria for sustainability and greenhouse gas emission saving for biofuel, bioliquids, and biomass fuels. Also for verification of compliance with the sustainability and GHG savings, calculation of the greenhouse gas impact of biofuels, bioliquids, and biomass fuels, and also sets the rules for calculating those GHGs for the different types of fuels. And you can also see that RED II, all the RED directives and RED II in particular, describes and sets the raw materials that can be used and the targets they're being used for. There are different sustainability, voluntary sustainability certification schemes that have been recognized by European Commission as and their system users are able to use them under RED II. You can see list a lot of them, and I'll try to briefly describe like the main ones, the main schemes. And we will start with the ICCU. It's one of the most popular certification scheme for the sustainability, and it has been recognized by the European Commission for Transport Biofuel Supply Chain. And the system focuses on different types of feedstocks, agricultural waste residues, feedstocks, and you can see it has a lot of different system documents which can be found on the dedicated website. And those system documents, they describe the system principles, rules, guidance, and in a very great detail. And if we speak about the ICC, we can also say that there is a rapidly growing market of the biomethane certification directly, and under ICC EU, we can see the number of the issued certificates, and that it's growing by each year, and we can see that dramatic growth. The next sustainability certification scheme is the Polish one. It's called rynok. It's somehow similar to the ICC EU, and it has also been recognized by European Commission for transfer biofuel and also for the biomass for heat and electricity supply chain. It has also a different variety of system documents that describe the sustainability criteria, the definitions, the land use principles, the mass balancing principles, and as well as life cycle GHG emissions and methodology, how to calculate them. This certification system also focuses on the different types of the feedstocks. The next the next certification system is called SURE, Sustainable Use of Resources, and it has also been recognized by European Commission for biomass for heat and electricity supply chain. It has system is focused on biomass fuels used for generation of heat and electricity, and it has also a full set of different documents that describe also the sustainability criteria, audit and the certification process, requirements for the certification bodies, for the auditors, and framework for GHG calculations, and they're also publicly available, provided on the system website. So, and if all our presentations are distributed, you can also find here the links to the system, to the website of the system. And just say a few words that despite the fact that all of those certification systems, they have their differences, such as like raw material, different feedstocks that are applicable, and different end market, their basics are really like basic ideas, basic principles are really similar, because they all are focused on the criteria, sustainability criteria for the raw material producer, the criteria and necessity to prove the traceability, the criteria to the setting of the mass balance system, and the necessity to define and calculate GHG emissions at the different stages of the biomass, since we're talking about biomethane biomass fuel production. And briefly, we're coming to the certification process overview, which can be described in the 5 basic steps. First, what you need to do is sign the contract with the certification body that suits you most, like preferably Bureau Veritas, of course. And the next steps, once you have signed the contract, you get to register on the relevant platform. It depends on the certification system that you have chosen. After that, you need to get prepared to the audit. You need to use those mentioned earlier system documents and procedures and all relevant documents. And then you undergo the certification audit with a set date. You just got ready, and certification audit has passed positively. And the next step is, of course, the certificate issuance. And under almost all of the schemes, certificates are publicly available. They are published on the system's website, so all the system users can show their certificates to their customers. So it's like publicly available information. Okay, so that's everything with me. Thank you again for the invitation, and thank you for your attention. If you have questions, I would be glad to answer them.
And thank you for making this presentation. Dear colleagues, now is the time to ask any questions if there are questions. we probably have some questions from the audience. Let me have a look. Yes, from Carolina Segir. The legal basis is settled in Ukraine by law and decree. The registry is under the development. What would be the next needed actions to foster biomethane production? Who's going to answer this question? Yes, Mr. Bezos.
Yeah, of course, we are at this stage of developing the platform for registers, including the register for guarantees of origin for biomethane. But I believe that here we are not the register active is not the obstacle to develop investment projects for biomethane production. Of course, a huge obstacle is the war, and I hope that our win will let us to develop much more investment projects. The main issue for Ukraine is to overcome this so-called, let's call it sustainability issue. And actually, I would like to hear thoughts from the colleagues on how big the issue is, because nowadays it looks like a great barrier for the market development. So sorry for answering a question by a question. So actually, I don't think that there are any obstacles to consider investment projects due to enormous potential for biomethane production, which was mentioned by our colleague Georgi.
Mr. Heletucha, you mean, yeah? Hello?
I guess.
Yes. My answer about obstacles that we need to finish establishment of register, it's absolutely needed, and then we need to connect this register with ERGAR. This is the most fast way to reach European market. I don't know details how much time it will need for this, but I expect that it's not too much. And after that, we will be ready for training, for trading. Also, the question about sustainability criteria. At least at the moment in Ukraine, inside Ukraine, we have no national requirements to this. It means that we will fully follow these European voluntary schemes, and we will need auditors for this. My expectations that not all biomethane from Ukraine will correspond to this sustainability criteria. And for me, it means that part of biomethane from Ukraine, which can follow the sustainability criteria, most likely will be traded to EU, but other part of biomethane without this sustainability criteria will be traded inside Ukraine. That my prognosis, we will have two markets, inside and outside of Ukraine.
Very interesting forecast. I see that Mate Fuchs wants to intervene. Go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you. I just would like to say that, as I mentioned to you, so we started this Hungarian project many years before. And in Hungary, there is still no biogas registry. So without the biogas registry, it is possible to start to develop the projects. Then it is possible to certify the biogas plants and the biomethane production under ISCC, Red Cert. There are many other certification schemes which can be used. And after that, this also the biogas plant, if it is still not, let's say, part of the Ukrainian biogas registry, you can put that biogas plant into Dana, and from there it is possible to trade the certificates or trade the proof of sustainability separately from the Dana biogas registry. So I just would like to encourage everybody that please start to develop your project. So not to have a national biogas registry is not a big issue. There are, let's say, workarounds so that you can sell the biomethane, which is sustainable, to the European market. It's not a problem. We have that experience, and we know that sometimes it's hard to be the first plant and to start everything without the registry.
Thank you, Mr. Fuchs, and a useful addition to what we've been discussing. There's one more question from Carolina Seguir, and it says, what are the prospects of a Ukrainian register to join ERGAR, and what are prospects of biomethane produced in Ukraine to be traded in the EU? I think that partially Valery Bezos has answered this question, but if someone wants to intervene, please go ahead.
So I just want to add that we've been developing our register in close communications with ERGAR, so we hope that as the result of such communications, we'll have the register with which will have a great perspective to be in line with the ERGAR's definitions, and we'll proceed with good connecting points with no delay. So
understood. If there are, yes.
Could I add
sure.
the second part of the
most welcome.
What the prospects of biomethane for the nearest years? I mentioned that we expect 2 biomethane plants start production in Ukraine already this year. For the next year, I know at least 5 biomethane plants, which is now in the different stage of development, with schedule to start production next year. And a lot will be dependent from the end of the war. As soon as war will be finished, I expect boom of biomethane in Ukraine, because we have very good conditions for this, and it's very profitable for Ukrainian conditions. It's much more profitable to produce biomethane than to produce electricity from biogas in Ukrainian conditions. That my prognosis is that most existing biogas plants will be interested to convert from electricity to biomethane, and will do this if there is a tube connection will be available. And the new plant, practically all new biogas plants will be biomethane plants. No electricity from biogas nearest year, at least.
Well, we shall soon check your forecast, Mr. Galatucha. If there are no other questions.
I would like to add.
Yes, please.
To answering the question, because ERGAR was mentioned in one of the questions, and yeah, what are the requirements to join the ERGAR CO scheme, and what are the requirements or hurdles to transfer biomethane from Ukraine to EU member states? That we have to, on the one hand side, look on the European legislation and on the rules of the ERGAR CO scheme. So apart from all the technical questions. The ERGA-CO scheme scope at the moment is limited to EU member states, to EFTA countries and the UK, meaning that not all countries of the energy community are covered by ERGA scope at the moment. So that's subject to a board decision, and it was already brought to the board. So discussions on this are starting. That's something I can tell you. And another thing is on the recognition of guarantees of origin according to Article 19 of the Renewable Energy Directive. And here, the issuing bodies, also issuing bodies of the ERGA-CO scheme, can only accept guarantees of origin subject to an agreement between the Ukraine and the European Union on the mutual recognition of guarantees of origin. And this is also subject to direct import and export of gas between EU member states and Ukraine.
Yes, of course. Working to the rules is as important as sometimes working in workarounds, as we heard from one of the esteemed speakers today. And this brings us to the summing up comments, which are, of course, welcome from Valery Bezos, head of the State Agency for Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving of Ukraine.
Thank you, Andrew. I want to thank all the speakers. I greatly appreciate your time and your readiness to join these discussions and share your knowledge, because as we are at the early stage of the market development, it's greatly important for us to have these communications. And I hope we'll be in touch and we'll see each other and hear each other on the following communications, the following discussions, and hopefully the discussions on how to increase the capacity of our markets after the start. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I, with a feeling of great satisfaction, say that we have managed to work within the 2 hours that we planned to work, but I'm sure that we will continue our discussions in our next meetings, and that the partnership between the Energy Club and the State Agency for Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving will continue to be fruitful and very, very up to the point. Thank you. Have good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.